a used grave, not a new grave. We are talking an occupied grave, complete with headstone. I look over the top. Here's this guy up to his neck in the grave, shoveling it out.
Right.
And I'm thinking, there's something you don't see every day.
No. When we watch Westerns as youngsters, one thing we would always see would be the formation of a posse. You claim to have formed a posse. I'm Andrew Rule, this is Life and Crimes. Today we're going to embark on a series of podcasts with a guest to the studio, Mark Trigger. Now, I met Mark Trigger at distant parts of East Gippsland some years ago when there was a terrible bushfire at
Mallacoota.
And Mark, you were a copper at Mallacoota, or the copper at Mallacoota, the policeman, for many years, were you not?
So I was stationed in Mallacoota for 16 years, and it varied between, at some stages during those 16 years of us having 4 or 5 policemen staying there, to the first day that I arrived, the sergeant handed me his keys, said, "These are the keys to the police station, make yourself at home, I'm off to East Timor for 6 months." Right. And that was it.
That was it. You embarked, you and your family, you had the wife and kids with you?
Correct. So at that stage, I was married and the first kid was on the way.
Yep.
And I've since then had 3 daughters, and they now all have done the reverse trip back to Melbourne for university and school.
I see. So, and now you're following them down to keep an eye on things.
Oh, pretty much, yes.
Just visit. But along the way, I know this for a fact, along the way you gathered quite a lot of interesting country copper stories, and you're a pretty good teller of stories, and in fact, you have published them in a book.
My 3 daughters got me to write down all the crazy police stories. They wanted it for their kids and their grandkids when they got older. I never thought it would get published, and when it did, I thought I would have to buy every copy and give it to extended family as a Christmas present for the next 10 years. So I was a bit amazed when it sold out in 3 weeks.
Mark, that reflects not only the content, which is good, but the title. And the title is remarkably good. What is it?
Well,
I know, but I'm asking you.
No, so the title is Backup is 3 hours away.
That sort of nails it, doesn't it?
And there have been many, many times in my career where backup has been 3 hours away. To give you an idea, the Far East Gippsland in particular is a huge area. There's a very low population and very few police. So at times during those 16 years, I was patrolling 4,000 square miles by myself.
Yep, it's a big area. Yep.
I would get given jobs that would take me 2.5 hours to drive to.
Yep.
That's just one way.
And that's from the border, basically from the border right through to somewhere like Bem River, close to Orbost, I guess.
So what happens is when you become a police officer on the border, you become a police officer in the adjoining state. Right. So I was a police officer in Victoria and a special constable in New South Wales.
I see. So you have got jurisdiction if you need it.
So you can continue a pursuit across the border. You can arrest people with the same powers that New South Wales police have.
Excellent.
However, you have no idea what the paperwork is, so you have to take them to a New South Wales police station and then just sign on the bottom line after the other guys do the paperwork.
And where do they go to court if they're naughty?
So if in Mallacoota it would be Eden, Magistrates Court they would go to unless it was somewhat more serious, in which case they would probably...
So they go to court in the other state. If you pursue them over the border, it becomes their jurisdiction for court.
If I pursue a car over the border and arrest them over the border, I can't bring them back. It's an extradition.
Gotcha. Right.
So I have to take them.
Okay. Now, along the way, your daughters are on the money because they know the stories. They've heard many of them. They were there when they happened in some respects.
When I was first moved to the country, I moved to Portland. Back in those days, during the Kennedy era, police, nurses, teachers used to have homes that you could rent at 6% before Mr. Kennett sold them all. And what happened was I was meant to get one, but I couldn't. The guy was sick, so they said, could you find somewhere else? And then someone came up to me and said, look, there's this 100-year-old farmhouse out at Whites Beach, which was about 25 kilometres from Portland. It's $75 a week. And I've gone, for $75, I am there. So I I moved into this. Now, I've got to admit I was a city boy, grew up in Sindel, Mount Waverley my whole life, had never lived in the country. So I moved into this 100-year-old farmhouse. It was so old that when the wind blew, the wallpaper used to come out about 2 feet.
Yeah.
It was in winter, and I remember lighting the fire and watching TV with a family of mice.
Oh, of course.
On the hearth. It had...
Character.
It had character.
And mice.
It also had an outdoor toilet
Yeah.
and a semi-detached shower that was part of a walled-in section of the veranda.
Excellent.
So on my first morning, I walked naked out the front door because I could, and into the walled-in section of the veranda and into the bathroom. Now, the bath/shower was one of those enamelled cast iron tubs on 4 legs with a wraparound curtain, no extractor fan, pushed against a far wall where there was this 4-foot wide lap sash window that you could drop down and that would let the steam out.
Yep.
And I worked that out. I'm in the shower shampooing. What I didn't know was that there was a horse in the paddock next to the shower that heard the water and walked over. And it looked through the window and went, water. I think I'll have a drink.
Yeah.
So it sticks its head through the window and proceeds to drink out of the shower. This is 12 inches in front of my face. I'm completely oblivious to it because my eyes are closed because I'm shampooing. Then the horse turns around, looks at me and says to itself, gee, I wonder what that white stuff tastes like. Let me tell you, getting licked in the face by a horse when you're naked in the shower is exciting.
That would be.
In fact, it's so exciting it bears detail. The lick goes in. And with the tongue pretty much still attached, your eyes open. And in the split second before the suds hit them and they close, the only thing you focus on is this massive set of teeth 6 inches in front of your face, and a horse, not the first thing to come to mind as you're naked in the shower. But the first thing that does, for some unknown reason, is the monster from the Aliens movie.
Yeah.
So you exit the shower, taking the rod and the curtain with you. I exited so fast I hit the far wall. Horse reared up, hurt its head, for horse. But occasionally I got used to the horse and I'd shampoo the horse's face as well. Now, the only problem with...
You got mates with the horse. And
living
the horse,
out. Yeah.
It would turn up.
It would turn up every shower.
Good God.
Now, the only problem with living out at White's Beach was...
Did he have a drink, the horse? Did he have a trough? Did he have a trough in the paddock?
Yeah, wasn't there though. Oh. So the only problem with living out there was the exorbitant rent. So I got young Johnny to move in with me, another young constable. So on John's first morning, he's sitting in the kitchen having a cup of coffee.
You didn't tell him about the horse, did you?
No. When he looks up and sees me walk naked past him out the front door. So John's head comes around the corner and he goes, Trig. I've gone, yeah, mate. Where going? And I look in and I go, shower. And then he looks at me and he says, why do you have a large carrot in your hand?
That's good. And you held the pause?
Fair question.
You held the pause, yes.
And I said, I often shower with a carrot. And he goes, you eat the carrot in the shower? I go, no. So what do you do in the shower with the carrot? And I've gone, you'll find out soon enough. So a couple of minutes later, he has a shower, meets the horse.
Right.
And in a couple of weeks, we're both showering with carrots, yeah.
Oh, I see.
So that was my first introduction to country policing.
That is a very funny story. And you couldn't make it up.
Oh, no, you cannot make this stuff up.
Is it funny about running water and horses? They love running water. Tell us about, and I'm racking my brains here from when we've chatted in the past, just casually, Gunther the German.
Okay, so this isn't exactly a high crime story, but it is somewhat hilarious. I was stationed in Apollo Bay at the time,
right,
and we were working an afternoon shift, so knocking off at midnight. And at about 6 o'clock that afternoon, we got a phone call asking for an assistance with a German tourist whose car had broken down on the Great Ocean Road.
Yeah.
This happened a lot. We often would have problems with visiting, especially European drivers, because they would drive along the Great Ocean Road, see an amazing sight, pull over, take some photos, get back in the car and then immediately drive on the wrong side of the road.
Yes.
And a car coming the other way could cause problems. But Gunther didn't have this. We'd just gone there and I could just smell when I got to the car that his clutch had basically burnt out. So we secured the car, we got him back into the police station and sat him down, and there was a car quite close, just in lawn from his company. So they drove up, and it only took an hour for him to get there. So Gunter just sat in the police station, and when the next car came up, the guy handed him the keys. So then we waved goodbye and Gunter headed off. Not 10 minutes later, we get another call from Gunter saying that this car's broken down. So we go up to it, and sure enough, he has burnt out a second clutch. And both cars were manual.
Right.
So my first question to Gunter was, have you ever driven a manual car? And he looked at me and said, no.
Oh,
so he had no idea what he was doing to drive.
You're kidding.
So he's just burnt out 2 clutches. So we've secured the second car, got him in the back, taken him back to the police station for a second time. And this time there wasn't another car. They had to bring one up from Melbourne. It was going to take another 4 hours, and the company wasn't very happy with Gunter, let me tell you.
That's quite bizarre.
So Gunter says, okay then, I'm going to go and get something to read. So he disappears into town. Me and Andy are on deck at the time, and we're just doing paperwork in the station. Gunter comes back, and he's sitting out the front of the watch house, which is the area where the public can come in.
Yeah.
And is reading. And I walk past him and I look down, and Gunter's reading a porno.
Right.
And
Well, he is German.
I do a double take and I go, Gunter, what are you doing? And he goes, I am reading. Yeah. And I go, you can't read a porno in a police station. Friggin' give it to me. So I pull it off him, wrap it up. I said, you can have it when you go. Women and kids come into the police station, mate. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So he was quite indignant. Anyway, it's almost knock-off time when the third car arrives. This one is an automatic, so
About time.
Gunter is feeling a lot happier with this. And the guy pulls up into the police station driveway, hands over his car. He wasn't too happy, let me tell you. So we go out there. Gunter gets in the car, starts it off, waves to us, and reverses into the telephone pole at the front of the police station.
Oh, magnificent.
Me and Andy are just dumbstruck. We were speechless. We could not believe it. So Gunter stops the car, gets out, goes to the back, sees this massive dent in it, looks up to us and says, what do I do? And I've looked at Gunter and gone, get back in and keep driving, Gunter. Just keep driving.
Frontwards.
Frontwards, away, as far away from Apollo Bay as you possibly can.
Absolute roll gold 24-carat Gunter.
So I've never before or ever had anyone have 3 car accidents in an 8-hour shift.
What were they doing giving somebody who clearly couldn't drive a manual? Secondly, in my experience in Europe, everybody drives smallish manuals and they regard automatics as something for little old ladies.
I didn't ask him at the time.
And it's bizarre, yeah, the whole thing.
But the whole thing was but the weirdest thing was when I passed him and looked up and just see him reading this pornographic magazine.
Good, yeah.
I just couldn't believe it.
Hi, it's Gary Jubilant here. Do you want a real and raw look inside the world of crime? Well then check out my podcast, I Catch Killers, where I interview people from all sides of the law.
I draw my firearm and I went into fight mode. I wanted to find and confront this gunman.
I'm not getting verbaled, am I?
I shouldn't have trusted you. See, I'm trying to open my mind up to defence powers.
I know, it's just begging to be said.
Yeah, fair call. We have amazing guests every week. Search for I Catch Killers wherever you get your podcasts.
Now, was there a story, tell me if this is you, the story about the graveyard and the...
Oh, no, that is me.
That is you. I think you've got to tell that one.
Okay, then. Well, that is most definitely one. So
that was down that way too.
It was at Apollo Bay. Anyone who has travelled the Great Ocean Road out of Apollo Bay, heading towards the 12 Apostles, you go through a small satellite suburb, a couple of K out of Apollo Bay called Maringo,
right,
and then you go up the Maringo Hill.
Yep.
And that's heading towards 12 Apostles and Warrnambool and
all
those
that.
places. So one night I was working with Mick and we're driving back and we're 10 minutes from knockoff, 10 minutes from midnight.
Right.
And we come down the hill and I'm driving and I look across where the old Apollo Bay Cemetery is on the right-hand side. And as I look up, I see a light.
Yeah.
And so I turn to Mick and I go, Mick, there's a light on in the cemetery. And he turns to me and says, what? And I go, there's a light on in the cemetery. And he goes, it's a boat, because it slopes down, overlooks the water. And I go, no. So I slow down, I do a U-turn. Mick goes, don't worry about it. It's just someone reading late. We pull up, front entrance of the cemetery, headlights off. We both see a flicker of a hand torch. Out we get, torches off, walking through the cemetery. It is black. No moon, no stars. Can't see a hand in front of your face. We get to the middle of the cemetery and Mick goes, shh, listen. We stop. No word of a lie. We can hear.
This is a shovel noise, is it?
It's the sound of someone digging.
Oh my God!
So I look at Mick. Mick looks at me, and I've gone, "Is that what I think it is?" And he goes, "Yeah." I've gone, "What do you want to do?" He goes, "Forget we ever heard it. Drive back, knock off." I've gone, "That's a good plan." And then he says, "Or we could investigate." And I've gone, "Plan one still sounds better." And Mick says, "Come on, there's two of us. We're grown men. We've both got guns." And I've gone, "All right then. Will you hold my hand?" So we're walking along. Digging's getting louder. I've got no idea what we're going to find. All of a sudden it stops, freeze. 30 seconds later, digging starts up again. I get to the far end of the cemetery and over a used grave, not a new grave. We are talking an occupied grave, complete with headstone. I look over the top. Here's this guy up to his neck in the grave, shoveling it out.
Right.
And I'm thinking, there's something you don't see every day.
No.
And I'm crouched down behind the back of the tombstone and my eyes are poking out over the top. And I'm looking at this guy and I'm thinking, this guy's acting sus. Not that digging a grave out at midnight isn't slightly sus to start with, but he's got a black beanie pulled down over his head, and every couple of shovelfuls he's taking a nervous look out towards the front entrance of the cemetery. Definitely something going on. So I stand up from behind the tombstone. As I do that, both knees go crack. This guy rockets around just in time to see my hands curl over the edge of the tombstone. I lean over the top of him and just say, "G'day."
And we must point out to our listeners that you are in the old money about, 6'7"?
6'8".
Sorry, I'm 6'8". I've cheated you of an inch. And that in metric is
202.
202. So when you stand up over a gravestone at full height with your knees cracking, it's quite a sight at midnight.
He screamed. The shovels come flying out. He's scrambling up the side of the grave. We've hit him with the torches. "Police, don't move." He's frozen. He's looked up. He's gone, "Police." Oh, thank God. We get him out, pull him up out of the hole. This guy is shaking like a leaf. And I have gone, "Mate, I can't wait to hear your story. Because if you do not have the world's greatest, you are in so much trouble. I don't even know where to start." Yeah. And he looks at us and goes, "I'm the gravedigger." And I go, "The town gravedigger." And he goes, "Huh?" I go, "Working at midnight by yourself in a used grave, no car, no lots." And he says, "Oh, well, old Bill Cloggs has got to be buried with his wife tomorrow, and I finished his grave off at 6:30. But then I got a phone call from his relatives at 8 o'clock. They went out and had a look and phoned me back to say that I dug the hole in the wrong spot, and I had to come back and finish it before the funeral tomorrow." Then this car pulls in, and it's his mate in a ute full of tools and lights who's been helping him all night. But they'd almost finished, so he'd gone home to get a 6-pack of beer and left him with a little torch with the batteries weren't working in it. It was all above board. We were stunned.
Oh, that is magnificent. And you thought you had the best pinch of all time. But all you got was the best story.
I would have thought I would have been looking up law from the 1600s from England.
Grave robbing.
Grave robbing, and seeing if I could translate that into modern Victorian law.
Oh, magnificent.
So, yeah, look, I'd have bet $1,000 he couldn't have come up with a story.
And there you are. In a sense, as soon as you heard it, you go, "Yeah, well, that'll be right." Obviously, he's just dug the wrong hole, and he and his mate are going to dig the right hole.
So he said, "Carry on." And the guy looked at us and he went, "Carry on?" He said, "No way. My mate's not gone 10 minutes. I swear I can hear footsteps coming towards me." So I stop and I listen. Can't hear anything. The minute I start digging, footsteps getting closer, then you've jumped up from behind that tombstone. I've shat my pants. He jumped in the car and barreled off with the guy.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is a great story. I had some early warning of that one. It bears repeating. It's a very good story. Now, when we watched westerns as youngsters, there was always the villains wore black hats, the good guys wore white hats, the Indians, as we used to call Native Americans, were often, I think, Mexicans or Spanish or Italian or Greek actors, often, and it was pretty rough and ready. But one thing we would always see would be the formation of a posse. The bad guys would gallop off with handkerchiefs around their faces and dum-da-da-dum-da-da-dum, and then the posse would chase them and head them off at the pass. You claim to have formed a posse in East Gippsland.
Also was in Apollo Bay. We had a fair bit happen in Apollo Bay. So I should first often say that forming a posse is nothing that is ever taught in the academy.
Right, okay. So
But
you never studied this.
You do not
You've
study.
You've had a bit to do with possums, but not posses.
Correct.
Right.
So what happens is a police officer can ask a member of the public for assistance in arresting someone.
Yeah.
And a member of the public can voluntarily assist a police officer. The interesting part of this, though, is that if that person, whilst assisting the police officer, is assaulted, then the offender is charged with assaulting police, even though they are not an employee of the police. They are acting at that time as a police officer.
Yeah, fair enough. And that's fair.
So, as everyone would know who's driven down the Great Ocean Road, Apollo Bay Lawn, Port Campbell, during the summer period, it just becomes mad, and there are hundreds of campers in there.
Crazy.
So in the Apollo Bay camp caravan ground, we got a phone call late one night that there were a group of young guys going around stealing things from caravans. And this was after midnight. So again, I was working with Andy, and we drove down and parked the car, and then decided we'd just sort of sit back with the binoculars. It was fairly well lit, and we would have a look, and we spotted 5 guys that were going around helping themselves, opening eskies, taking out any drinks that were in there. A bike got stolen, other people were just putting stuff up. But here's the thing, there's 5 of them and there's 2 of us.
Right.
So we watched until they went back to their campsite, and then we did a check on the registration numbers of the cars and found out that they belonged to crooks that had quite a lengthy set of prior convictions, some of which were violence.
They're not just cheap and easy kids. These are
these
bad
were crooks.
Dudes. Bad dudes, yeah.
So we got onto the radio, explained what had happened, and our nearest up to that point was Colac, which was well over an hour north of us. And they said, well, listen, it's going to take over an hour for us to come in and see you and, get any help to you.
Yeah.
So we had to think outside the square as to how we were going to arrest these 5 guys safely.
Yep.
So as we were walking around earlier on that night, we spotted a large group that was drinking down the far end of the caravan park. So we wandered down, and it turned out to be a New South Wales rugby team on their end of year.
Were they big, strong blokes?
They were freaking huge.
And were they game?
And anyway, so and they're half cut. And so anyway, they walked up to them and we said, listen, guys, we need a bit of a hand. And they said, what do you need? Well, we've got to go and arrest these 5 guys, but we don't want to do it alone. We'd like you guys to come with us. Now, if any of them takes a swing at us, feel free to jump in. And these guys were all 16, 18 years of old, and you could just see their eyes light up at the thought of having a stoush. Yeah. And
the game they play, of course.
And I said, on top of that, if any of them take a swing at you, we charge them with assaulting police, because you are acting at that point in time as police officers.
How did they receive that?
And they thought that was even better.
Of course they did.
And one of the guys raises his hand and he said, what happened? And he goes, do you have to swear us in? Oh. I was so close to saying, everyone raise your right hand and repeat after me. But I decided against it, and I said, no, that's just in America, guys. It's enough that you say, you're going to help us and that you come along. That's all we needed. So anyway, the coach was there, and the coach was sort of 4 sheets. So anyway, he sculls the rest of his beer and goes, right, let's get this done. And we'll march over to this camp. So I bash on this tent. And the voice goes, what is it? He goes, police. Anyway, these 5 guys come rushing out and there's 18 people surrounding them. And I go, g'day guys, listen, just want to say we've been watching you for the last half hour. We know all this stuff has been stolen. You're all under arrest. And the 5 guys they look at us and they go, I don't think so. And you know, by this stage, you've got a couple of the 16-year-olds sort of champing at the bit to get in there and assist us and clean them up. But the coach steps in and he goes, listen up, you 5 idiots. We're here. And if you think you're going to be able to beat all of us, you got it wrong. So how's about you do what the 2 nice police officers weren't, turn around, get handcuffed, and we can all go back home. and they did. So they came around and we cuffed them. Because we work remote country, we carry spare handcuffs in the police car. Yeah. So we're able to cuff them all, stick them in the back of the van and take them back, and it was without incident. But as they were walking off, I do have to say there were a few looks of disappointment
amongst the young fellas, because I think they were really keen to have white hats
been able
black hats.
to have acted as a police officer for a few hours. Yes,
a
definitely.
Beautiful story and a rare story.
It's the only time I have ever done that. Something that I chose to ask at a lecture we had one year, and that was that if that was to happen and the person assisting us is injured, are they entitled to work cover? Yeah. And the answer is no.
Oh.
Because they're not an employee of the police force.
Oh, right. That's tricky stuff. Occupational health and
safety,
all that stuff, it's complicated. Mark Trigger, thanks very much for talking to us about your new book. Well, it's not that new, but it's fairly new. Backup is 3 hours away from all good bookshops and many bad bookshops. We are so delighted with it that we might like to talk to you next week, and we'll see you then.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew, for inviting me to come on and have a chat. And I would definitely be up for another one next week.
Excellent. Thanks for listening. Life and Crimes is a Sunday Herald Sun production for True Crime Australia. Our producer is Jonty Burton. For my columns, features and more, go to heraldsun.com.au/Andrew Rule, one word. For advertising inquiries, go to newspodcastssold@news.com.au. That is all one word, newspodcastssold. And if you want further information about this episode, links are in the description.